Welcome back, Pauls. Let's see who has come in that car. Let's go straightly to the chapter. It's chapter 17. Two-way detecting. As the automobile pulled into a halt, Mr. Aubon slumped to the floor in a faint. Evidently, he had shared Nancy's thought that the Dowd were returning and would force their way in. The terrifying thought that he might become a prisoner again had been too much for the exhausted man. "Oh!" Nancy cried out. From the window, Nancy saw 4 people hurriedly alighted from the car. A moment later, the bell rang and a woman's voice cried, Mr. Aubon, please let us in. It's the Donnells." Nancy hurried to the front door and flung it open. "Kathy, Jim," she cried out. "Oh, you don't know how glad I am to see you." The 2 young people introduced Nancy to their parents, a good-looking couple in their 40s. Then they stepped inside. "What are you doing here, Nancy?" Jim Donnell asked, puzzled at the girl's deceived appearance. "What's going on?" Nancy replied by saying Mr. Aubon was ill and there was no time for further explanation right now. She hastily led the family into the living room. When they saw their unconscious friend in the floor, Mrs. Donnell rushed forward with an excited cry. "How dreadful!" she exclaimed. As she knelt down, the kindly woman said she was a registered nurse. After a brief examination of the patient, she reported that Mr. Aubon appeared to be suffering from malnutrition and shock. While Jim and his father lifted him onto the couch, Nancy told what had happened to him. The Donnells were stunned. Before they could discuss it, however, Nancy turned to Jim. "2 phone calls must be made right away," she said. "Would you be able to take care of them for me?" "Glad to," the boy said. "I suppose you want me to notify the police to pick up Stumpy Dowd." "Yes," Nancy said terribly and described the black foreign car. She next added Jim to call Chief McGinnis at River Heights and tell him to have extra man patrol the Drews' home. "Find out if Mrs. Gren and Laura are all right," she requested, "and see if a housekeeper knows where to get in touch with Dad." Jim said he would do all of these things. As soon as he returned, he would try to fix Nancy's car. After Jim left, Nancy turned to the others. Mr. Aubon has regained consciousness and said he felt better and able to talk. "Lillian," he said, giving Mrs. Donnell a wan smile, "the angels must have sent you. How did you know we were in trouble here?" "We didn't for sure," Mr. Donnell replied gravely, "until tonight. It's a long story." The grey-haired man said that he and his wife had been amazed to hear on Tuesday from their children that Marian Aubon had returned from Florida and that she and Jacob had met Laura Pendleton and twin links. "We were sure you would have told us of your change of plans if this were true, Jacob," he said to his old friend. "Anyway, we came over here yesterday morning to say hello and meet Laura." No one answered the bell. "We concluded that Mrs. Donnell, that Nancy Drew has been mistaken in thinking that you were coming back here. Anyway, we remembered you saying that due to illness of Marian's mother, you should not be able to come here with Laura until after your wife's return." "That's right," said Mr. Aubon. He explained to Nancy that first there had been legal technical regarding his appointment at the offense guardian since he had been living in another state. That was why his ward had remained at a boarding school. Mrs. Donnell went on to say that this evening they had received a telephone call from Mrs. Aubon, who was still in Florida. "Mariana has tried several times to get you and was upset to learn that the phone was disconnected. She called us to see why. My wife hadn't heard from me in another 2 weeks," Mr. Aubon stated. Mrs. Donnell said, "But Marian thought she had." Mrs. Aubon had sent telegrams here and replies came to her in Florida. Mr. Donnell said that where the family heard that Marian Aubon was indeed in Florida, they were fearful something was terribly wrong. "We told Marian what we knew, suggested the come home immediately and said we would come over here right away to see what we could uncover." "Thank goodness you did," Nancy sighed, and Mr. Aubon gave his friend a grateful smile. Then he asked, "How is Marian's mother?" "Getting along very well." "When will my wife arrive?" Mr. Aubon asked anxiously. "She's taking a night plane from Miami to Hamilton Airport," Mrs. Donnell replied. "My husband will meet her." Kathy's mother then went to the kitchen to prepare a light meal for Mr. Aubon. Nancy excused herself and went to wash her face, legs, and grimly hands. Refreshed, she returned to the living room, wondering what was keeping Jim so long. "He'll be here soon, Nancy," said Kathy. "I'll feel much better when I know everything all right at home," Nancy replied. While Mr. Aubon ate, the pretty detective told the others of Stumpy Dowd's connection with Mr. Drew's case. "What a story!" Mr. Donnell exclaimed. Nancy excused herself for a moment and went to the front door to listen for Jim's car. As she stood on the steps, her heart suddenly leaped. A tall figure stood up from behind a bush near the front steps. "Nancy!" a man's voice called softly. Nancy knew who it was. "Dad!" she cried out. Carson Drew leaped the steps and gave his daughter a resounding kiss. "Are you all right?" he whispered. When Nancy said yes and that it was safe to talk aloud, Don Cameron and Laura emerged from some shrubbery. We saw lights and heard noises, Laura explained. We thought it was the Aubons. What's going on here, Nancy? Yes, tell us, Don urged. Once again, Nancy explained what has happened. Carson Drew listened to his daughter's story of her encounter with the thief, a stern expression on his face. You were lucky to come out of this so well, he remarked. Yes, Laura agreed, and it's so wonderful to have a guardian whom you say is nice. Mr. Aubon is a fine person, Laura, Nancy said. I'll take you in to meet him in a minute. Carson Drew now brought Nancy up to date on his news and ended up by saying, We were so worried we drove here immediately, not even taking time to call the police. Don added that they had left Mr. Drew's car at the end of the lane and was scouting the house to see if Nancy were inside when she had appeared on the front steps. How many times I wished you were here, said Nancy. She now suggested that everyone come into the house to meet the others. Jim Donnell, she added, should return any minute. I'll wait for the young men out here and act as a guard in case the doubts showed up, Carson Drew said, sitting down on a step. The rest of you run along. As Nancy walked inside with Don and Laura, she saw that Mr. and Mrs. Donnell were helping Mr. Aubon up the stairs to his bedroom. Hearing voices, the guardian turned, looked at his ward and exclaimed, Laura dear, at last, I know you're anywhere. You look just like your mother. Mr. Aubon, Laura cried out. She raced up the steps and gave her guardian a big kiss. Introductions were quickly made, and when Mr. Aubon was settled in his bed, he had a visit with Laura and Nancy. But after they had chatted for a few minutes, the girl could see that the man needed sleep badly. We'll say good night now, said Nancy. Sweet dreams. She turned off the lights and then went downstairs. When Nancy and Laura reached the first floor, they found Mr. Drew and Jim Donnell talking in the hall with the state trooper. While Kathy took Laura aside, Nancy walked towards the group. She was introduced to Sergeant Murphy, then Carson Drew explained to her that the state police were pitting all available cars on the chase and hoped to round up the dots, and they accomplished shortly. Good, Nancy explained. But what about Mrs. Green? Sergeant Murphy said that he had talked with Chief McGinnis. The River Heights officials had immediately sent a patrol car and 4 men to the Drews' home. Your housekeeper was relieved to hear that you, Miss Drew, has been found, he reported. Nothing unusual had happened at your home tonight, but it will be closely guarded until the doubts and the accomplice were caught. Oh, I'm glad, said Nancy. Sergeant Murphy left after saying he could check back later. Nancy and Mr. Drew walked into the living room and she introduced her father to Mr. and Mrs. Donnell and Kathy. After a few minutes of excited conversation, the young sleuth said, Dad, I have a hunch that the man, Fred, whom Stumpy Dowd mentioned, is someone employed at the Monroe National Bank. Tell me, was Mrs. Pendleton's name ever mentioned in connection with the missing securities? Mr. Drew shook his head. No, Nancy, it wasn't. Then, said Nancy, I think we are going to find that Laura's bonds were never deposited in the bank's vault. Whoever took them and passed them on to Stumpy Dowd must be someone who worked in the custodian department of the bank. That's good reasoning, Nancy, her father agreed. But we have to check almost all the employees and they have been given a clean bill of health. One man, Mr. Hamilton, assistant, had been on vacation and we won't be able to interview him for another week or so. What's the man's name? Nancy asked. Mr. Drew consulted a list of names which he had took from his pocket. William Friendlich. Nancy snapped her fingers. Friendlich? Maybe he's the Fred the Dowds were talking about, and if he is, she continued excitedly, I think they are together and I believe I know where the Dowds are hiding out with this man. Carson Drew looked at his daughter in amazement. Where? He asked. Not far from here, Nancy said mysteriously. Then she jumped up from her chair. Let's find out, Dan. Will they find out? Stay tuned for the next chapter, guys. Have a happy day.